Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And today I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon by talking about stuff that's related to Disney. And like I said in my previous videos before, getting into the film industry is quite difficult, even though it's much more easier nowadays. And just because you have a great idea doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get made. Even if you have a good idea and it was made, it could be really changed up a bit. So for this video, I want to talk about Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is the fourth installment of the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy. But the thing is that George Lucas himself had stated that he admitted that he has some ideas for a sequel trilogy for quite some time. I mean, when I say quite some time, let's just say 40 years he had this in mind, apparently. So he brought this up several times, and it was intended to be a conclusion to the original Star Wars trilogy. So, but that's the thing, though. He later denied any intent on actually making it, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense considering the fact that why would you even want to make it to begin with? But then in October of 2012, he sold his production company Lucasfilms and with it the Star Wars franchise to the Walt Disney Company. Apparently spoke along the side with this individual whom is the new president of Lucasfilms. Luke, Lucas had stated that he always stated that he wasn't going to make any more films, and apparently that's true because he wasn't really going to do any more, apparently. And that doesn't mean he wasn't exactly unwilling to turn it over to somebody else to do more, and it was with that woman. Which I find it really debateful because of the fact that he did get some, George Lucas did get some heat over the other movies. Prequel trilogy was often considered as to be really terrible movies, which they are, but yeah, they're all just also described as being really cartoony and overuse of the CGI. So, if anything, I do believe he has something to do with that. That George Lucas didn't want anything to do with Star Wars anymore because of all the criticisms he had received. The production of the original Star Wars trilogy, it genuinely came off like, okay, George Lucas has a point to make. But during the production of the prequel trilogy, it was often rumored that George Lucas pretty much fired anybody that would question him or whatever. So if anything, he became more soft over the years, and he became way more controlling than he ever did before. Of course, for the new film of Star Wars The Force Awakens, you got a new director for that movie. So yeah, of course, they will discuss ideas, because apparently as a creative consultant on the film, George Lucas had attended early story meetings with the people a part of this production and advised on the details for the Star Wars expanded universe. Among the material that turned over to the production team was his rough draft story treatments for some sequels for the film, which George Lucas had apparently requested to read only by the new director of George Lucas Film Company, and of course, and a few others involved. But then, apparently, according to George Lucas, later on, had stated that the company of Disney had dismissed his story ideas, which honestly I find hard to believe, but and that he had no further involvement with the film. So, and also apparently, George Lucas' son had told that his father was very torn about having sold the rights to the franchise, and that his father was to be there to guard, and that he wants to let go and become more newer to the generation and whatnot to keep things fresh or whatever. Allegedly, George Lucas had the new ideas for the new films ever since the original trilogy, but the studio didn't allow him to use it, which I honestly don't believe really. If he's really feeling regretful on selling the rights to his films, then he wouldn't have done it and should have done it to begin with because the studio of Disney isn't pointing a gun to his head. No one's making him do anything. While, yes, Star Wars The Force Awakens was eventually made after all these years, but as it turns out, it just comes off as though he didn't like the fact that he didn't have complete and total creative control like he did with the prequel trilogy. And yes, he was heavily criticized for that kind of a thing, saying that the production was, let's say, had a rocky start is definitely an understatement. But there was also this one individual that expressed relief that the release date was finally announced for December of 2015 instead of a previously discussed summer release. He and some other individual, of course, had planned the story while working, somewhere else, of course, apparently. The first draft was completed in 6 weeks. That's rather fast when you think about it. So the individual said that the key to the film was to return to the roots of the first original Star Wars trilogy, and it shows. The very first installment, New Hope to be more exact. So, and be based on more an emotion than explanation. And then in January of 2014, it was confirmed that the script was completed, and then in April of the same year, George Lucas Films clarified that there's going to be a brand new trilogy called the Sequel Trilogy, and it will not feature any storylines from the expanded universe, even though it obviously does have elements that was included in that, of course. That actually is obviously a lie because there were actually elements from the expanded universe, the lore and whatnot, were actually implied into the new Star Wars films and the others as well. Storylines from the books, video games, and whatnot were actually from the lore. So, like I said, that was actually a lie right there. So, what took a while is that there were some creative differences. They didn't exactly agree on every little thing. So that in some it's got in the way. According to what George Lucas said on a report, he said that if he were to get there to the production of the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, it was stated that he apparently said that he was just going to cause trouble because they're not going to make him do what he wanted them to do. And he didn't have enough control to do that anymore, and it was just going to be murking up everything. And he also said that they just want him to do a retro style film referencing the old movies. And he didn't like that. Every movie he said that he worked very hard on to make them different and wanted to make them completely different in different planets, different spaceships, and make everything seem new. Which just sounds ridiculous because, like I said, he's just taking stabs at Disney just because it's Disney, and that's it. I'm concerned, George Lucas had allowed all the money and fortune and fame go to his head. While making a lot of money in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, of course, but you can't allow that to cloud your judgment, of course. So, this film, like I said a moment ago, it was, of course, eventually made, thankfully, but it just went through so many changes. We went through so much trouble during this production time. But the thing is that even when it was made, that doesn't necessarily mean all this trouble, all these heated arguments didn't exactly mean it stopped, really. But yeah, it was reported that he apparently liked the movie anyway, so that seems kind of fishy right there. Considering the fact that he also said that the Disney had basically in the whole thing with white slavers and whatnot. He made that remark, so it basically twisting his arm around and whatnot, which doesn't make any sense at all. But that's a really sensitive thing to say, and also considering the fact that he should have been aware of the fact that Disney himself, when he was alive, was falsely accused of being racist himself. So he stated that he'd been working with the company for about 40 years, or if not more. You'd think he would have heard about the rumors, but wanted to team up with them anyway? That doesn't make any sense. So why didn't he ever bring this up before? So it's quite obvious that he was lying. Cameron's Titanic had made a assload of money and it became really popular. And yeah, let's just say that George Lucas actually became extremely jealous because of this. And that film had received quite a few awards, at least announced that it would anyway. So it was at least nominated, which of course made George Lucas very jealous. So that's the only reason he made the prequel trilogy. It's not really because like he wants to expand the story like he claimed. No, no. And honestly, I know this is not a very popular opinion really. I really did think the sequel trilogy is a lot better than the prequel trilogy. Yeah, I said it. The actor who played Luke Skywalker attempted to defend the Star Wars prequel trilogy, but honestly, that's not enough for me to be convinced that they're any good, which they were not, really. But at least on the bright side, Star Wars The Force Awakens, when it was finally made, it was a smash hit. So that definitely is a good start, and it was definitely, while it was not a perfect movie by any means, but I did enjoy it as a whole. So that's definitely a good thing, folks. So anyway, of course, as always, thanks for watching and take care. Until next time, see ya. Oh yeah.